This is your captain speaking. If you...
Oh, they're so good!
We guarantee you I'm gonna that thing. Push.
By accident.
What's his name then?
No. We have something he needs. Because unless will end.
Hey man. Why'd you keep rocking?
Oh, baby.
You would be.
We can't survive if you stay together.
There we are.
Always remember you.
No, this is all the money that we have.
Like all of my brothers are cut away.
I think you were.
Welcome to Cinema Film. Aj hum baat current whale hain Venom, The Last Dance, 2024. Baar maina ak ic movie jo surf Venom ki kahani ka and naya, bal ke edi braka Venom krishte ko bilkul naya meaning dedi high, is video mine applicant honest movie review, chupi hua facts, shocking scenes, ending real matlab joshama adap miscargate honorable, kaya Venom ka sab say darka emotional chapter high, pori detailed site jan kli video and takdeka ye surf cinema film par. Ati's negation Diane Venom, The Last Dance is a 2024 American superhero movie based on the Marvel Comics character Venom. It is the third movie in the Venom series, following Venom, 2018, and Venom, Let There Be Carnage, 2021. It is also the fifth film in Sony's Spider-Man universe. The movie is written and directed by Kelly Marcel and stars Tom Hardy, who returns as Eddie Brock in the voice of Venom. Other cast members include Chiwetel Ejiofor, Juno Temple, Reese Ifans, Stephen Graham, Peggy Lou, and Alana Ubach. In this story, Eddie Brock and Venom are on the run, being hunted by enemies from both the human world and the symbiote world. In August 2018, Tom Hardy shared that he had signed a deal to appear in a third Venom movie. After the release of the second film, Sony Pictures officially started developing the third installment in December 2021. By June 2022, Kelly Marcel and Tom Hardy were actively working on the script together. A few months later, in October 2022, it was confirmed that Kelly Marcel would also direct the film, marking her first time directing a feature movie. During mid-2023, new actors such as Chiwetel Ejiofor and Juno Temple joined the cast, and filming began at the end of June 2023 in Spain. However, production was stopped the following month because of the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. Filming continued again in November 2023 after the strike ended. The movie was fully completed by the end of February 2024, and its official title was announced in March 2024. Venom, The Last Dance had its world premiere at the Regal Times Square Theater in New York City on October 21, 2024, before being released in theaters across the United States on October 25, 2024. The movie received mixed reactions from critics. Some reviewers criticized the storyline, while many praised Tom Hardy's performance, along with the film's action scenes and visual effects. Even though it became the lowest-earning film in the Venom trilogy, it still performed well at the box office, earning a total of $478.9 million worldwide. After being sent to Earth 616 because of Doctor Strange's spell, Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote end up drunk inside a bar in Mexico. The bartender tells them about Thanos and the Infinity Stones, but before they can process everything, Eddie and Venom are suddenly pulled back into their own universe, Earth 688, and return to their version of the same bar. Eddie and Venom are still on the run after their recent fight with Carnage, and news spreads around the world about the apparent death of Patrick Mulligan. Eddie is wrongly blamed for the murder and becomes a wanted man. To clear his name, he decides to travel to New York City to meet someone from his past, though he accidentally leaves behind a small piece of the Venom symbiote at the bar. At the same time, a dangerous creature called a xenophage begins hunting Eddie and Venom. Elsewhere, Soldier Rex Strickland leads a secret government operation known as Imperium Area 51, which is about to be shut down. The mission focuses on capturing and studying alien symbiotes that have landed on Earth. Patrick Mulligan is revealed to be alive after surviving his encounter with Carnage, and Strickland captures him. Mulligan is bonded with one of the many symbiotes held at the base and is questioned by Imperium scientists Dr. Teddy Payne and Sadie, also known as Christmas, to learn why the symbiotes have come to Earth. While traveling toward New York City by clinging to the outside of an airplane, Eddie and Venom are attacked by the xenophage. They are forced to jump off the plane and crash into the Nevada desert. Venom explains that xenophages were sent to Earth by Null, the creator of the symbiotes, to recover something called a codex. The codex is created when a symbiote brings its host back to life, and it has the power to free Null from the prison the symbiotes trapped him in long ago. Because Venom once revived Eddie, the two of them now carry a codex. After escaping the xenophage and Strickland's team, Eddie gets a ride to Las Vegas with a group of hippies who are fascinated by aliens. Meanwhile, Mulligan's symbiote tells Strickland about Null's plan and reveals that the codex can only be destroyed if either Eddie or Venom dies. In Las Vegas, Eddie and Venom are attacked again by both the xenophage and Strickland's forces. They are separated and taken to Area 51. Sadie, who feels sympathy for the symbiotes, helps Venom escape. Venom unites with Eddie after Strickland shoots him, which draws the xenophage to the base. During the battle, the xenophage kills Mulligan. Venom releases the other captured symbiotes, which bond with Sadie and the remaining scientists to fight back. Null becomes aware that the codex has been found and sends more xenophages to Earth, overpowering the symbiotes. Realizing that the only way to stop Null and save the universe is through sacrifice, Venom merges with the xenophages and leads them into acid tanks, saying goodbye to Eddie. Strickland, badly injured, changes his view on the symbiotes and detonates his grenades to help destroy the xenophages. Teddy bonds with the symbiote to protect Sadie from the explosion. Eddie later wakes up in a hospital, where a military official tells him that his actions at Area 51 have earned him a clean record, as long as he keeps everything that happened a secret. Eddie then travels to New York City and visits the Statue of Liberty to honor Venom, who had always wanted to see it. In a mid-credits scene, Null declares that the universe is no longer safe now that Venom is gone. In the post-credits scene, the Mexican bartender, who had been captured by Strickland after Eddie left, escapes from the destroyed remains of Area 51. Nearby, a black cockroach crawls out beside a broken vial that once held a sample of the Venom symbiote. Casting Tom Hardy's portrayal of Eddie Brock and his symbiote counterpart Venom stands as the cornerstone of the entire Venom trilogy, a casting choice that originated in 2017 when Sony Pictures announced the live-action adaptation of the Marvel Comics anti-hero. Hardy's selection was not merely a star-driven decision but a deliberate alignment of his chameleon-like acting prowess with the dual nature of the character. Known for his transformative performances in films like Bronson, 2008, and The Revenant, 2015. Hardy brought a raw physicality and emotional depth that allowed him to embody both the beleaguered journalist and the chaotic alien entity. In Venom, The Last Dance, released on October 25, 2024, Hardy's return marks the culmination of a 7-year arc, where his commitment to the role extended beyond acting into co-writing the story, influencing the casting dynamics for the ensemble around him. The casting process for Hardy in the original Venom, 2018, involved intense screen tests where he improvised scenes with motion capture suits to simulate the symbiote's transformations. Director Ruben Fleischer recalled in interviews how Hardy's ability to switch seamlessly between Eddie's vulnerability and Venom's bombastic ragia complete with a guttural voice that blended Cockney inflections with otherworldly snarls sealed the deal. This duality required Hardy to undergo rigorous physical training, bulking up to 220 pounds for the role, a regimen that carried over into the sequels. For The Last Dance, under Kelly Marcel's direction, Hardy's preparation evolved to include psychological immersion. He spent weeks in isolation, journaling as both characters to deepen their fractured relationship, a method actors approach that informed Marcel's choices for co-stars who could match his intensity without overshadowing it. Hardy's contract, signed in August 2018 for 3 films, ensured his centrality, but it also imposed constraints on the narrative scope, pushing Marcel to cast supporting players who could expand the symbiote mythology independently. In behind-the-scenes featurettes, Hardy discussed how his producer role allowed him to advocate for actors like Chiwetel Ejiofor, emphasizing the need for gravitas in the villainous roles to counterbalance his comedic leanings. This collaborative input highlights a shift in Hollywood casting trends, where leads increasingly shape ensembles, a practice Marcel praised in a 2024 IMAX interview for fostering organic chemistry on set. Hardy's endurance in the franchise, despite mixed critical reception, Venom scored 30% on Rotten Tomatoes while The Last Dance hovered at 42%. Underscores his dedication, with rumors of a $20 million salary for the third installment reflecting Sony's investment in his star power. Critics have noted Hardy's accent work as a point of fascination and occasional contention. His Eddie Brock sports a muddled American twang, part San Francisco journalist, part British undercurrent that evolved across films. In The Last Dance, this hybrid voice serves the road trip narrative, allowing Venom's interruptions to feel more intrusive and familial. Hardy explained in a Screen Rant interview that the accent was a conscious choice to reflect Eddie's displacement, mirroring the symbiote's alien estrangement, a nuance that influenced casting for characters like the hippie Martin Moon, who needed to provide comic relief without clashing tonally. Kelly Marcel's directorial vision and its impact on ensemble casting. As the screenwriter for the first 2 Venom films and the director of The Last Dance, Kelly Marcel's transition to the helm profoundly shaped the casting strategy, prioritizing actors with theatrical backgrounds to elevate the film's blend of horror, action, and humor. Marcel's debut feature direction drew from her experiences on Venom, Let There Be Carnage, 2021, where she clashed creatively with Hardy over script tones, a tension that reportedly simmered into nepotism whispers given their close professional bond. In a 2024 Collider interview, Marcel dismissed these as tabloid fodder, asserting that her casting calls focused on versatility. "I wanted performers who could pivot from quiet menace to explosive chaos, much like Tom does daily." Marcel's process began in mid-2023, post the writers' strike, with open calls augmented by targeted outreach. She collaborated with casting directors Mary Verneau and Brett Howe, known for their work on Dune and The Mandalorian, to scout talent that could handle practical effects-heavy scenes. The decision to excise major returning characters like Michelle Williams, Anne Wing and Woody Harrelson's Cletus Kasady was Marcel's bold stroke, explained in a Yahoo Entertainment piece as a narrative reset to focus on Eddie and Venom's last dance without romantic or adversarial crutches. This purge opened slots for fresh faces, allowing Marcel to infuse the Imperium storyline with actors capable of layered antagonism. Her emphasis on diversity evident in casting Clark Bacco and Peggy Lou in pivotal roles aligned with Sony's post-2020 inclusivity mandates. Though Marcel framed it as essential for world-building, the symbiotes and invaders are human hunters needed to reflect the global paranoia. In production notes, Marcel revealed consulting comic creators Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman for Null's inclusion, which directly influenced Andy Serkis' casting as the symbiote god. Serkis, who directed Let There Be Carnage, was a natural fit for motion capture mastery, his Gollum legacy making him ideal for the eldritch horror. Marcel's interviews highlight how Serkis' involvement bridged the trilogy, with his advisory role on set ensuring symbiote designs complemented the cast's physical performances. This interconnected casting exemplifies Marcel's holistic approach, where even minor roles like the bartender, Christopher Tilda Daz, linking to the MCU, served as Easter eggs, rewarding eagle-eyed fans without derailing the core ensemble. Chiwetel Ejiofor's casting as General Rex Strickland, commanding presence in a symbiote hunt. Chiwetel Ejiofor's enlistment as General Rex Strickland in May 2023 marked a pivotal expansion of the Venom universe into militaristic sci-fi territory, his casting a masterstroke that infused the Imperium with Shakespearean gravitas. Ejiofor, an Academy Award nominee for 12 Years a Slave, 2013, and a Tony winner for Dance of the Vampires, was scouted after Marcel caught his performance in The Old Guard, 2020, where his stoic intensity as a immortal warrior echoed Strickland's relentless pursuit. In a YouTube interview with the Venom cast, Ejiofor described the audition as a chess match, involving table reads where he improvised tactical monologues against Hardy's improvisational Venom outbursts. Strickland's arc from hunter to reluctant ally demanded an actor who could convey moral ambiguity, a trait Ejiofor honed in roles like Doctor Strange, 2016's Carl Morto. Marcel praised his commanding whisper in pre-production notes, noting how Ejiofor's Nigerian-British heritage added layers to a character leading his xenophobic task force, subtly critiquing real-world immigration debates without preachiness. Preparation involved weapons training at a London facility, where Ejiofor bonded with Hardy over shared method acting rituals, including symbiote possession exercises using practical tendrils. Fan reactions, Reddit threads, lauded the choice for elevating the film's stakes, with Ejiofor's chemistry with Juno Temple's pain sparking rumors of spin-off potential. Ejiofor's salary, estimated at mid-seven figures, reflected his draw, but his commitment extended to vocal coaching for Strickland's clipped military cadence, a departure from his natural baritone. In a post-release Variety profile, he reflected on the role's timeliness. In a world of border walls, playing a general chasing aliens felt like dark satire. The step transformed Strickland from comic footnote to trilogy linchpin, influencing downstream casting for Imperium subordinates like Jerry Abrahamson's Captain Forrest, chosen for his The Expanse grit to mirror Ejiofor's authority. Juno Temple's breakthrough as Dr. Theodora Teddy Payne, from comedy to cosmic menace. Juno Temple's April 2023 casting as Dr. Teddy Payne, the brilliant yet tormented Imperium scientist, represented Marcel's gamble on comedic talent for villainy, a pivot that paid dividends in The Last Dance's tonal tightrope. Temple, beloved for her Emmy-nominated Keely Jones in Ted Lasso, 2020-2023, auditioned via self-tape from Atlanta, submitting a monologue blending vulnerability and fanaticism that echoed Payne's backstory of fraternal loss and symbiote obsession. Marcel, a fan of Temple's Dirty John, 2018, work, saw in her wide-eyed ferocity the perfect foil to Hardy's bombast, as detailed in a TikTok cast insight reel. Payne's paralyzed arm and lightning-scarred psyche require Temple to master asymmetry and movement, consulting physical therapists for authentic prosthetics and gait. Her preparation included devouring symbiote lore, collaborating with Cates on Payne's unhinged monologues, which Temple delivered with the posh British lilt masking American undertone as a nod to the film's accent fluidity. In a Facebook group discussion, co-creator Todd McFarlane surprised Temple during an interview, praising her innocent evil as comic-accurate to hybrid characters. Temple's dynamic with Ejiofor, forged in chemistry reads, elevated Imperium scenes, while her banter with Hardy injected levity, as seen in bloopers where Venom's ad-libs cracked her up. Critics like those at Vulture noted Temple's magnetic menace as a highlight, her casting credited for humanizing the antagonists amid the film's purposeful badness. This role catapulted Temple into blockbuster territory, with agents fielding A-list offers post-release, underscoring Marcel's eye for underutilized talent. Resiphon's eccentric turn as Martin Moon, hippie heart in a symbiote storm. Resiphon's portrayal of Martin Moon, the blissed-out alien aficionado harboring symbiote secrets, brought whimsical counterpoint to the trilogy's close, his June 2023 casting a deliberate nod to Marcel's love for Notting Hill, 1999. Eccentricity. Ifans, with credits spanning Spider-Man, 2002's Dr. Connors to The Amazing Spider-Man, 2012, was pitched by Hardy during a pub brainstorm. His Welsh timbre ideal for Moon's rambling prophecies. Auditions involved improv sessions with Hardy, where Ifans' deadpan delivery of symbiote gospel won laughs and tears. Per behind-the-scenes YouTube clips, Moon's family unit, including Alana Eubank as wife Nova and child actors Hala Finley and Dash McLeod, required Ifans to anchor domestic warmth amid apocalypse, a challenge he met through on-set improv workshops. Eubank, voice actress extraordinaire from Coco, 2017, was cast opposite after a Zoom chemistry test, her Latina vibrancy contrasting Ifans' lanky awkwardness for authentic bohemian vibes. Ifans' preparation included desert retreats to channel Moon's mysticism, influencing practical effects for symbiote hosting sequences. Reviews in Vanity Fair critiqued the characters sticking out but praised Ifans' commitment, his role a bridge between humor and horror that echoed Hardy's early films. Stephen Graham's return as Patrick Mulligan. From cop to symbiote vessel. Stephen Graham's reprise as Detective Patrick Mulligan, now bonded to a green symbiote in The Last Dance, provided continuity from Let There Be Carnage. His 2021 tease as Toxin payoff a fan service casting holdover. Graham, a Liverpool native with The Irishman, 2019, Intensity, was locked in early 2022. His working-class authenticity perfect for Mulligan's blue-collar descent into monstrosity. Marcel expanded his arc in rewrites, requiring Graham to voice the symbiote gravelly Cockney snarl drawing from his Boardwalk Empire, 2010 to 2014, gangster ethos. Graham's physical transformation involved 12 weeks of MMA training, sharing stunt duties with Jacob Tomry, Hardy's double across the trilogy. In a YouTube gag reel, Graham's ad-libs as the symbiote quips like "we're not villains, we're misunderstood." Highlighted his rapport with Hardy, forged on Taboo, 2017. Critics lamented Mulligan's wasted potential in Bam Smack Pow reviews, but Graham's dual performance added emotional heft, his casting a testament to Marcel's loyalty to trilogy threads. Peggy Lou and Clark Bacco's supporting pillars, continuity and fresh energy. Peggy Lou's return as Mrs. Chen, the sardonic store owner and Venom confidant, anchored the film's heart, her 2023 recasting seamless after Let There Be Carnage. Lou, a comedian with Joyride, 2023, Bite, was Marcel's voice of reason, her Cantonese-inflected wisdom providing cultural texture. Bacco, joining February 2024 as Sadie Christmas, the idealistic Imperium researcher, brought the craft, legacy, 2020, youth, auditioning with the badged whirling improv that charmed producers. Their scenes, per Digital Domain VFX interviews, demanded green screen poise. Lou's deadpan contrasting Bacco's fervor for dynamic duels. Lou's preparation included dialect coaching, while Bacco shadowed scientists for authenticity, their casting lauded in IGN clips for diversifying the symbiote chase. Andy Serkis as Null, motion capture mastery and trilogy closure. Andy Serkis voicing and mocap as Null, the symbiote progenitor, was a 2023 coup, Marcel's full-circle choice given his directorial past. Serkis, the mocap pioneer from The Lord of the Rings, 2001 to 2003, consulted on designs, his eldritch roars layered with Hardy echoes. In Art to VFX breakdowns, Serkis to tell 200 hours of capture, influencing minor cast like Jack Brady's symbiote Jim for cohesive horde visuals, minor roles and cameos, fleshing out the symbiote world. Reed Scott's shadowy Imperium head, a nod to his Venom Dan Lewis, was a low-key return, cast for vocal familiarity. Christopher Nate tilde inverted exclamation mark Dez's bartender cameo bridged universes, his Ted Lasso charm a meta wink. Jack Brady and Jade Nicholson Lamb as symbiote hosts added chaos, their unknowns selected for raw energy in mass auditions. Hala Finley and Dash McLeod as Moon Kids brought innocence, scouted from theater camps for naturalistic fear. Casting controversies and departures, Williams, Harrelson, and narrative shifts. The absence of Michelle Williams as Anne Wing sparked debate, Marcel citing narrative risk in Yahoo interviews to streamline Eddie Venom's bond. though insiders whispered scheduling clashes post The Fabelmans. 2022, Woody Harrelson's Cletus Cassidy exit, teased in post-credits, stamped from trilogy closure, per IMDb News, with Naomi Harris. Francis Barrison also dropped for Focus. Accent critiques, like Hardy's mixed-up drawl in Quora forums, extended to the all-English lead's American veneers, a Reddit meme calling it ironic for an illegal aliens flick. Nepotism rumors around Marcel Hardy ties surfaced in Vulture, but cast defended the family vibe in Facebook posts. Behind-the-scenes casting stories, stunts, bloopers, and improv. Jacob Tamri's multi-role as Drake, stuntman exemplified practical casting, his Maori heritage adding authenticity to fight choreography. Bloopers from YouTube reveal temple flubbing lines amid Hardy's pranks, while Ejiofor's set chess games with Graham fostered off-script bonds. Marcel's IMAX chats detailed location shoots influencing on-site casts, like Vegas extras for Tourist Chaos. VFX supervisors in Digital Domain Talks noted cast input on symbiote bonds, with Ifan suggesting hippie tendrils for visual flair. Fan and critical reception to the casting choices post-release. Twitter, now X, buzzed with praise for Ejiofor temple pairing, though some lamented Graham's underuse in YouTube critiques. Hardy's final bow drew emotional fan art, while Serkis Null voiced calls for spin-offs. Overall, Marcel's ensemble blending vets and newcomers delivered a fitting send-off, its flaws forgiven for bold swings. Venom, The Last Dance, a comprehensive production analysis, production development and pre-production. The journey toward Venom, The Last Dance began years before cameras started rolling, with Tom Hardy revealing in August 2018 that he had already committed to appearing in a third Venom film. This early commitment demonstrated both Hardy's investment in the character and Sony Pictures' confidence in the franchise's long-term viability. However, formal development wouldn't commence until December 2021, following the theatrical release of Venom: Let There Be Carnage. Producer Amy Pascal confirmed in that same month that the studio was in the planning stages for a third installment, setting the wheels in motion for what would become the trilogy's conclusion. Sony Pictures officially confirmed the film's development at CinemaCon in April 2022, signaling to industry insiders and fans alike that the Venom story would continue. By June 2022, the creative architecture of the project began taking shape when Hardy revealed that Kelly Marcel was writing the screenplay. Marcel, who had contributed to the scripts of both previous Venom films, was now taking sole screenwriting credit, though she and Hardy collaborated on the story. This partnership proved pivotal, as the two shared a collaborative history extending back to the early 2000s when they worked in southwest London. Marcel had performed uncredited rewrites on Hardy's earlier films, including Nicholas Winding Refn's Bronson and George Miller's Mad Max: Fury Road, establishing a creative shorthand between them that would prove invaluable during the development process. The most significant announcement came in October 2022 when Marcel was confirmed to make her directorial debut with the film. This represented a considerable leap for Marcel, who had established herself as a successful screenwriter with credits including Saving Mr. Banks and 50 Shades of Grey, as well as creating the television series Terra Nova and The Changeling. Her promotion to director marked Sony's confidence in her vision for the franchise's conclusion. Marcel signed on to direct while also serving as a producer, joining a production team that included Avi Arad, Mac Tolmac, Amy Pascal, Hutch Parker, and Hardy himself, all working through their respective production companies: Arad Productions, Matt Tolmac Productions, Pascal Pictures, Hutch Parker Entertainment, and Hardy's son Baker. The film was expected to serve as the conclusion to the Venom trilogy, bringing closure to the story arc that had begun in 2018. Hardy was reportedly set to receive $20 million for his involvement in the project, reflecting both his star power and the franchise's commercial success. The development phase also involved careful consideration of which villain would serve as the primary antagonist. The filmmakers had long been aware of Null, the King in Black of the Symbiotes, a character introduced in Marvel Comics in 2018. However, They decided that establishing Venom's character and his relationship with Eddie Brock had to take precedence before introducing such a powerful Marvel supervillain. The creative team looked to various Venom comic books for inspiration, particularly those by David Michelinie, Todd McFarlane, Donny Cates, and Ryan Stegman. The latter two creators were Null's originators, and Sony hired them in an advisory capacity, with at least Cates being granted access to read the screenplay. This collaboration ensured that the character's comic book roots were respected while adapting him for the cinematic universe. Cates and Stegman expected monetary compensation for Null's inclusion in the film, recognizing the commercial value of their creation. Throughout the development process, Marcel and Hardy maintained an ongoing dialogue about the trilogy's progression. According to Marcel, they had been collaborating continuously across all three films, discussing what each subsequent film would entail even while working on the previous installments. They knew from the outset that this was conceived as a trilogy with a defined endpoint. One of their key decisions was knowing that Null would eventually be introduced and having a clear vision for how the story would conclude. This long-term planning allowed for narrative seeds to be planted throughout the earlier films that would pay off in The Last Dance. The casting process for new characters began in mid-2023. With significant additions to the ensemble. Chiwetel Ejiofor, known for his role as Carl Mordo in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, was brought on to portray Rex Strickland, a soldier overseeing a government operation. Juno Temple, fresh from her acclaimed work on Ted Lasso, joined the cast as Dr. Teddy Payne. These additions brought considerable dramatic weight to the production, expanding the franchise beyond its established core cast. Andy Serkis, who had directed Venom, Let There Be Carnage, was unable to return as director due to his commitments to Animal Farm, a project he had previously delayed to work on the second Venom film. However, Serkis remained connected to the franchise in a different capacity, being cast as the voice of Null, the film's ultimate antagonist. This casting represented a full-circle moment for Serkis, who had helped shape the franchise's direction with the second installment and now would contribute to its conclusion as a performer. Stephen Graham reprised his role as Detective Patrick Mulligan, continuing his character's arc from Let There Be Carnage. Peggy Lou returned as Mrs. Chen, the convenience store owner who had become a fan favorite in the previous films. The returning cast provided continuity and emotional resonance for longtime viewers while the new additions brought fresh energy and expanded the scope of the narrative world. Filming principal photography officially commenced on June 26, 2023, marking the beginning of an extensive and occasionally interrupted production schedule. The primary filming location was Spain, specifically at Los Matios in Cartagena and the Cal Blanc Regional Park. These Spanish locations provided the desert landscapes and outdoor environments crucial to the film's road movie aesthetic. The production operated under the working title Orwell, a common practice designed to maintain secrecy and avoid unwanted attention from fans and media during location shooting. Fabian Wagner served as the cinematographer, returning to the franchise after working as an additional cinematographer on Let There Be Carnage. Wagner's experience with the visual language of the Venom universe made him an ideal choice to lend Marcel's directorial debut. His work would need to capture both intimate character moments and large-scale action sequences while maintaining the franchise's established aesthetic while also introducing new visual elements appropriate for a trilogy conclusion. The production faced its first major setback within weeks of commencing photography. In mid-July 2023, the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists initiated a strike that would last for months. The work stoppage resulted in filming being halted as actors were legally prohibited from working on struck productions. This timing was particularly unfortunate given that production had only recently begun, creating uncertainty about when filming could resume and how the delay might impact the release schedule. During the strike period, Sony Pictures adjusted its release plans. In late July 2023, with production suspended and no clear end to the labor dispute in sight, the studio announced release date of July 12, 2024. This represented a calculated gamble that the strike would be resolved with sufficient time to complete production and post-production within the timeframe. The adjustment reflected the broader impact that the 2023 labor actions had on Hollywood's production pipeline, with numerous projects experiencing delays and studios scrambling to reorganize their release calendars. When the SAG-AFTRA strike concluded in early November 2023, Sony made another significant scheduling decision. The studio delayed The Last Dance from its July 2024 date to November 8, 2024. This November slot had previously been reserved for an untitled Marvel film from Sony, suggesting that the studio had been holding this prime release window for one of its major franchise films. The delay provided additional time for the production to complete filming and for the extensive post-production work that a visual effects-heavy superhero film requires. Production teams prepared to resume work following the strike's conclusion. Filming restarted on November 16, 2023, with cast and crew returning to complete the interrupted production. The resumption allowed the filmmakers to maintain momentum and complete the remaining scenes on their shot list. In February 2024, Clark Bacco joined the cast in an undisclosed role, a late addition that suggested either reshoots or additional photography to enhance certain sequences or storylines. By the end of February 2024, Juno Temple indicated that filming was nearly completed. This timeline meant that principal photography had spanned approximately 8 months when accounting for the strike-related hiatus. The extended production period, while partially due to circumstances beyond the filmmaker's control, also reflected the ambitious scope of the project and the complexity of the practical and effects work required. The production design required creating various environments, from Mexican bars to Area 51-inspired government facilities. The Spanish locations doubled for multiple geographic regions in the narrative, requiring careful attention to continuity and believability. The practical locations were supplemented by extensive set construction and would later be enhanced by visual effects to create the film's complete environments. Marcel's approach to directing her first feature involved close collaboration with Hardy, whose experience and investment in the character proved invaluable. Their long-standing creative partnership meant that communication was streamlined, with both understanding the other's creative instincts and working methods. Hardy has praised Marcel's directorial work, noting her careful attention to every aspect of production and her ability to maintain a clear vision throughout the complex shoot. The production also involved significant stunt work and action choreography. Scenes involving Venom's transformation sequences, fight choreography, and various action set pieces required careful planning and execution. The filmmakers utilized motion capture technology for certain sequences, particularly those involving Venom's movements and interactions. This technology allowed for more fluid and naturalistic movement while maintaining the otherworldly quality of the symbiote character. Location filming in Spain provided both opportunities and challenges. The Spanish locations offered visual variety and production value, but also required substantial logistical coordination, particularly given the international nature of the production and the presence of visual effects work that would need to be integrated with the practical photography. The production worked with local crews and facilities, contributing to Spain's growing reputation as a destination for major Hollywood productions. Post-production following the completion of principal photography in February 2024, the film entered an intensive post-production phase. Mark Sanger took on editing duties, bringing his experience to shape the footage into a coherent narrative. Sanger worked to balance the film's various tonal elements, from action sequences to character-driven moments to comedic beats, while maintaining the pacing necessary for a satisfying conclusion to the trilogy. The editing process was completed at the Cary Grant Theatre at the Sony Pictures Studios lot in early October 2024, just weeks before the film's planned premiere. This tight timeline reflected the compressed post-production schedule necessitated by the earlier production delays. The late completion date meant that the various post-production departments had to work efficiently and sometimes simultaneously to meet the deadline. The visual effects work represented one of the most substantial and complex aspects of post-production. John Moffat and Aaron Berland served as the production visual effects supervisors, overseeing the massive undertaking of bringing the film's digital elements to life. Greg Baxter served as the visual effects producer, managing the logistics and coordination across multiple vendors. The scale of the visual effects work required collaboration among several major VFX houses, each contributing their specialized expertise to different aspects of the film. Industrial Light Magic, one of the industry's most prestigious visual effects studios, handled significant portions of the work. Simone Coco served as ILM's VFX supervisor on the project. ILM's responsibilities included the river sequence and the entire third act, comprising some of the film's most intensive action and effects work. The third act required creating massive battle sequences involving multiple symbiotes and the alien creatures known as xenophages, demanding extensive digital character work, environmental design, and effects simulation. Neg, which had worked on both previous Venom films, returned for The Last Dance, providing continuity in the character design and execution. David Lee served as Neg's VFX supervisor, leading a team that handled the majority of sequences outside of those assigned to ILM. Neg's involvement spanned approximately 499 shots across the film, with work conducted at their Mumbai and London facilities. The studio employed roughly 600 artists and production crew over a 16-month post-production timeline. Neg's responsibilities included creating and animating several key characters. The studio pulled its existing Venom asset from their library, using it as a base while updating it to account for advances in their pipeline. While the model and texture work transferred relatively smoothly, the look development required a complete overhaul, as did all blend shapes for facial performance. Sony Pictures had been satisfied with Venom's appearance in previous films, so no major design changes were necessary. However, Neg made subtle adjustments to address challenges from earlier productions, such as creating variants for scenes where Venom appeared smaller in frame, allowing for better scale representation through more detailed specular breakup. A significant new addition was Wraith Venom, a tendrilled character that emerges from Eddie. This version required more comprehensive recreation and presented unique challenges, particularly in daylight scenes. Venom's appearance had primarily been showcased in nighttime or low-light environments in previous films. The Last Dance required the character to appear in broad daylight, particularly in desert sequences. Since Venom's look is driven primarily by reflections, the simpler lighting of outdoor daylight scenes posed problems. Neg solved this by employing creative license, adding multiple small light sources while maintaining bias toward the key light direction to preserve the sense of natural lighting while providing the modeling necessary to read Venom's form. Neg also created the xenophage, a major new creature antagonist. The development process began early in post-production, with the concept team drawing inspiration from various animals including praying mantises, crocodiles, snakes, and porcupines. Concept art evolved into 3D sculpts created in ZBrush. These were quickly rigged so the animation team, led by Chris Lentz, could conduct motion studies within temporary sequences. The unusual physiology required careful testing to ensure the creature could move in ways that felt organic and realistic despite its alien nature. The team settled on insectoid-type movements, giving the xenophage staccato motion with its limbs and head movements that felt almost mechanical, conveying that these creatures operated as efficient killing machines rather than natural predators. The dance sequence between Venom and Mrs. Chen in Las Vegas represented a unique challenge combining choreography, motion capture, and animation. A choreographer worked with dancers to develop the entire routine in collaboration with Marcel. The sequence was filmed at Leavesden Studios with motion capture tests conducted beforehand to establish eyelines and staging that would accommodate the significant size difference between the human dancer and the eventual CG Venom. A separate motion capture session provided data and reference for the final animation. Neg's initial assumption was that Venom would need slower, weighted movements, but reference of large-frame dancers revealed that size doesn't preclude grace or speed. The animators kept Venom more dynamic than initially expected, resulting in a sequence that maintained energy and humor while feeling believable. Other unique creature work included Venom Horse, created when the symbiote takes over a horse that Eddie rides through the desert. This required believable integration of the symbiote's visual language with equine anatomy and movement. Neg also created a green symbiote that bonds with the character in this film, designed with a snake-like, semi-transparent appearance that Marcel described as having a water god aesthetic. Digital Domain contributed significant work as well, with Scott Edelstein serving as their VFX supervisor. Digital Domain's primary responsibility was creating and animating Null, the godlike antagonist who appears in limited but crucial sequences. The character required a commanding presence befitting his role as the creator of all symbiotes and an entity of immense power. Digital Domain crafted Null's appearance to be imposing and otherworldly while ensuring his few appearances would have maximum impact. Rodeo FX handled the beach flashback sequence, requiring creating a convincing coastal environment and any necessary effects work for that scene. Territory Studio contributed various screen graphics and user interface elements, handling the technological and display work seen throughout the film, particularly in the government facility sequences. For pre-visualization and post-visualization work, the production utilized 3 companies: The Third Floor, Incorporated, Torchlight, and Host. These companies helped plan complex sequences before filming and refined others in post-production, allowing the filmmakers to visualize and solve problems before committing extensive resources to final VFX work. This pre-visualization work was particularly crucial given Marcel's first-time director status, providing a roadmap for complex sequences. The division of work among vendors was strategic. ILM handled the river battle in the third act. DEG managed most remaining sequences. Rodeo FX took the beach flashback. Digital Domain handled null-specific material. This division allowed each studio to focus on particular sequences, developing expertise and efficiency with their assigned material while ensuring consistency within each sequence through single vendor responsibility. The action sequences required particular attention in post-production. The airplane battle between Venom and the xenophage demanded complex choreography, effects simulation for the aircraft's interior, interaction between CG characters, and integration with practical photography. Wind effects required cloth simulation on Venom's surface to create ripples suggesting force impact, similar to effects seen on skydivers at terminal velocity. Similar simulations were applied to the xenophage's spikes and loose skin patches. Animation emphasized wind through strong poses showing characters leaning into wind resistance, with limbs being swept back before pushing forward, selling the difficulty of movement. Camera work incorporated steady low-amplitude rumble and broader buffeting to enhance the sense of wind power. The underwater fight and chase scene in a river presented different challenges, requiring Venom to take control of a fish and a frog. These transformations needed to feel consistent with established symbiote abilities while exploring new territory in terms of how the symbiote could manifest in different animal forms. Each form required careful attention to anatomy, movement, and the distinctive visual signature of the symbiote aesthetic. Environmental work extended beyond creature creation. The film required convincing digital environments for the government facility, expansive desert landscapes, and various other locations. These environments needed to feel grounded and realistic while supporting the fantastic elements of symbiote action and alien creatures. Lighting, atmospheric effects, and environmental details all contributed to selling these spaces as real locations where these extraordinary events occurred. Music. The film's musical landscape was crafted by Dan Deacon, an unexpected choice for a major superhero blockbuster given his background in experimental electronic music. Deacon's involvement was announced by August 2024. And his selection represented a departure from the traditional orchestral superhero score. Deacon had been building his film composition career since 2011 when Francis Ford Coppola recruited him for Twixt. His recent work included the documentary Ascension, which earned an Oscar nomination, and the Adam Sandler film Hustle for Netflix. His most relevant prior work was his score for The Changeling, a television series created by Kelly Marcel, establishing a working relationship that led to his involvement in The Last Dance. Deacon approached the project with both enthusiasm and a personal connection to the source material. He revealed that comic books were a core part of his childhood, and he was 7 years old when Venom first appeared in Marvel Comics. He became immediately obsessed with the character and the symbiote mythology, collecting earlier appearances and key issues by returning bottles and cans for 5 cents each to fund his hobby. This genuine passion for the character informed his approach to the score. Director Kelly Marcel praised Deacon's work, stating that he brought a unique and compelling level of story to the score. She described herself as a massive fan of his work and characterized having him score Eddie and Venom's final journey as a musical dream come true. She found watching a live orchestra perform his pieces to be an emotionally resonant experience that she would cherish. Deacon's score combines dynamic, emotional orchestral movements with bold, action-packed synthesized sequences, creating what he and Marcel saw as the perfect musical accompaniment to the trilogy's final chapter. The score features 28 tracks with a total running time of approximately 57 minutes. Track titles reflect key moments and locations from the film, including Null's Order, Area 51 to 55, Venom and Eddie at the River, Love Battle, and It's a Showdown. The score balances traditional superhero movie elements of portentous strings and pounding drums with Deacon's signature electronic experimentation. Small moments of synthesizer-driven weirdness emerge throughout the score, providing distinctive flavor without overwhelming the more conventional orchestral foundation. This hybrid approach allowed the score to feel appropriately epic and emotional while maintaining a unique sonic identity. Unlike the previous 2 Venom films, The Last Dance does not feature a song where Eminem raps about Venom. The first film had featured Eminem's Venom, which became closely associated with the franchise. Instead, The Last Dance features collaborations between Deacon and Skylar Grey, who had frequently provided hooks for Eminem's tracks, creating an indirect connection to the franchise's musical past. The film also features an original song titled One Last Dance by Tom Morello and Grandson, featuring Morello's teenage son Roman. This track was released as a digital single on October 25, 2024, the same day as the film's theatrical release. The song serves as a thematic companion to the film, reflecting the finality and emotional weight of Eddie and Venom's story conclusion. Beyond the original score, The Last Dance incorporates several popular songs that enhance specific scenes. Queen's Don't Stop Me Now plays during a sequence where Eddie rides Venom in horse form, the upbeat rock anthem providing energetic counterpoint to the visual absurdity. Cat Stevens' Wild World appears as Martin, Eddie, and Venom arrive in Las Vegas, with Martin later quoting the song as he says goodbye to Eddie. The song's themes of change and moving forward resonate with the narrative's emotional arc. Perhaps most memorably, ABBA's Dancing Queen soundtracks the dance sequence between Venom and Mrs. Chen in a Las Vegas casino. This scene represents one of the film's most joyful moments, with Venom taking full control of Eddie's body to dance with Mrs. Chen despite the risk this poses given their need to remain hidden. The choice of this particular disco classic emphasizes the celebratory nature of the moment while providing humor through the incongruity of a lethal alien symbiote dancing to one of pop music's most wholesome anthems. The soundtrack album was released on October 25, 2024, by Sony Classical, available on all major streaming platforms including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Deezer, YouTube Music, and Pandora. While the film doesn't have an official compilation album featuring all the popular songs used throughout, audiences can access these tracks through standard streaming services and create their own playlists to recapture the film's musical journey. Deacon's score successfully navigates the challenge of providing appropriate emotional and dramatic support for a film that ranges from intimate character moments to massive action sequences, from comedy to tragedy. His electronic music background brings textual variety to the orchestral foundation, while his genuine affection for the character ensures that the music serves the story's emotional needs. The score contributes significantly to the film's identity as both a conclusion to the trilogy and a distinct entry with its own musical personality. Released theatrical Venom, The Last Dance held its world premiere at the Regal Times Square Theater in New York City on October 21, 2024. The premiere event provided the first public viewing of the completed film and generated initial reactions from industry professionals and critics. 4 days later, On October 25, 2024, the film received its wide theatrical release in the United States through Sony Pictures Releasing. The release strategy positioned The Last Dance in premium formats to maximize revenue and provide enhanced viewing experiences. The film was released in IMAX and other premium large formats, allowing audiences to experience the visual effects and action sequences on the largest and most technically sophisticated screens available. This premium positioning reflected confidence in the film's visual spectacle and aimed to attract audiences willing to pay higher ticket prices for an enhanced experience. The path to this October release date had been circuitous, reflecting both the impact of the 2023 labor strikes and strategic release scheduling decisions by Sony Pictures. The film had originally been expected to release in October 2024 when development began. When the SAG-AFTRA strike forced production to halt in mid-2023, Sony announced release date of July 12, 2024, banking on the strike ending with sufficient time to complete production and post-production. When the actors' strike concluded in November 2023, Sony re-evaluated their timeline. The studio delayed the film from its July 2024 date to November 8, 2024. This November slot had been previously reserved for an untitled Marvel film in Sony's slate, suggesting the studio had been holding this prime release window for one of their major franchise properties. The November date provided additional breathing room for post-production while positioning the film in a potentially lucrative late-year window. However, in March 2024, when the film received its official title of Venom: The Last Dance, Sony made a final scheduling adjustment. The release date was moved forward from November 8 to October 25, 2024. This return to the October timeframe brought the film back close to its original expected release window. The October slot offered several advantages. It positioned the film ahead of the typically crowded Thanksgiving corridor, provided breathing room from other superhero releases, and capitalized on the Halloween season's audience interest in darker, more horror-adjacent content. The film opened simultaneously in many international markets, with some territories receiving the film ahead of the U.S. release. The earliest release date was October 23, 2024, in Asia-Pacific regions including China. This international rollout strategy allowed Sony to build momentum and word of mouth ahead of the crucial North American opening. The theatrical release faced competition from other films, most notably Conclave, a religious drama that opened the same weekend. Industry tracking initially projected Venom: The Last Dance to gross around $65 million from 4,125 theaters in its opening weekend. These projections reflected some caution given the declining trajectory of superhero films at the box office and mixed critical reception. Additionally, the opening weekend coincided with the Yankees-Dodgers World Series, a highly anticipated matchup between two major market teams that potentially diverted audience attention from theaters. The film's MPA rating of PG-13 was granted for intense sequences of violence and action, bloody images, and strong language. This rating matched the previous Venom films and positioned the movie for broad audience accessibility while allowing for the darker content fans expected from the franchise. The relatively restrained rating compared to R-rated superhero offerings helped maximize the potential audience while maintaining the series' established tone. The release strategy emphasized The Last Dance as the conclusion to the trilogy, marketing it as the final chapter in Eddie and Venom's story. This positioning aimed to create a sense of urgency and importance, encouraging fans of the previous films to see how the narrative resolved. The marketing materials featured prominently the film's emotional elements, highlighting the bond between Eddie and Venom and suggesting a bittersweet conclusion to their partnership. International markets proved crucial to the film's success, ultimately accounting for approximately 71% of the worldwide gross. China emerged as the lead market, which was particularly significant because Venom: Let There Be Carnage had not released there due to COVID-19 complications. The Last Dance's strong performance in China helped compensate for a softer domestic opening, validating Sony's decision to pursue an international day-and-date release strategy. The theatrical run saw the film maintaining the #1 position at the domestic box office for 3 consecutive weeks, demonstrating stronger holds than initially expected despite opening below projections. This performance suggested that word-of-mouth and repeat viewings were contributing to the film's longevity, with audiences responding positively despite mixed critical reviews. Home media Sony Pictures Home Entertainment announced the home media release dates during the film's theatrical run, following the studio's standard windows for major releases. The film was released on digital download platforms on December 10, 2024, approximately 6 weeks after its theatrical premiere. This relatively short window from theatrical to digital release reflects contemporary distribution strategies that aim to capitalize on marketing momentum and audience interest while theatrical revenue begins to decline. The digital release made the film available through major platforms including Fandango, At Home, Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, and other digital retailers. This wide availability ensured that audiences could access the film through their preferred services, maximizing reach and convenience. The digital version allowed viewers to watch the film on demand on various devices, from large-screen televisions to mobile phones and tablets. The physical media release followed approximately 6 weeks after the digital debut. On January 21, 2025, Sony Pictures Home Entertainment released Venom: The Last Dance on DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K UHD formats. This staggered release strategy allowed Sony to maximize revenue from different consumer segments, first capturing audiences willing to pay premium prices for immediate digital access, then reaching collectors and consumers who prefer physical media. The 4K UHD release provided the highest quality home viewing experience, offering enhanced resolution, high dynamic range color, and improved audio formats for consumers with compatible equipment. The Blu-ray version offered high-definition quality at a lower price point, while the DVD edition ensured accessibility for consumers with more basic playback systems or those seeking the most affordable purchase option. The physical releases typically include bonus features that weren't available in the initial theatrical run, while specific bonus content wasn't detailed in available information. Major superhero film releases generally include behind-the-scenes documentaries, deleted scenes, director commentary, breakdowns of visual effects work, and other supplementary material that provides insight into the filmmaking process. Given this was the final film in the trilogy, such bonus content would have particular appeal to fans wanting to explore how the conclusion was crafted. Sony had previously established distribution agreements that would affect the film's post-theatrical availability on streaming platforms. In April 2021, Sony signed deals with both Netflix and Disney covering their 2022 to 2026 film slate. These agreements dictated that Sony's theatrical releases would follow specific windows before appearing on various streaming services. The structure typically involved films first appearing on Netflix after the initial home media windows, then later moving to Disney's platforms. This complex arrangement reflected Sony's strategy of maximizing revenue from their theatrical releases across multiple distribution channels over an extended period. The home media releases allowed audiences who missed the theatrical run or wished to revisit the film to experience it at their convenience. The availability across multiple formats and price points ensured broad accessibility, from budget-conscious consumers to enthusiasts seeking the highest possible presentation quality. The timing of the releases positioned them for potential holiday gift-giving for the physical media versions, a traditional strategy for major entertainment releases. According to data from Showlabs, Venom: The Last Dance ranked first on Netflix in the United States during the week of February 24 to March 2, 2025. This performance demonstrated the film's continued appeal to audiences even months after its theatrical release and indicated strong interest in streaming availability once the film entered that distribution window. Reception box office: Venom: The Last Dance opened to mixed financial results that ultimately evolved into a commercial success despite falling short of its predecessors. The film made $22 million on its first day of domestic release, including $8.5 million from Thursday night preview screenings. The preview numbers represented solid interest but signaled that the film might not match the opening day performance of earlier franchise entries. The film proceeded to debut to $51 million for its opening weekend, securing the top position at the domestic box office. However, this opening represented the lowest debut of the trilogy, falling significantly short of both Venom's $80.2 million opening in 2018 and Venom, Let There Be Carnage's $90 million debut in 2021. The opening also came in below industry projections of approximately $65 million, representing a disappointment for the studio's expectations. The underperformance was attributed by Deadline Hollywood to two primary factors: the ongoing Yankees-Dodgers World Series, which drew significant attention from potential moviegoers, and the broader phenomenon of superhero genre fatigue affecting audience enthusiasm for comic book adaptations. Despite the lower-than-hoped domestic opening, the film demonstrated notable resilience in subsequent weeks. The second weekend saw the film earn $26.1 million, representing a 49% drop from the opening frame. While any decline is expected in the second weekend, a drop below 50% is generally considered a positive sign, suggesting the film was holding its audience better than many superhero releases. The film maintained the #1 position at the domestic box office for the second weekend. The third weekend brought $16.2 million, a 37% decline from the second weekend. This more modest drop suggested positive word-of-mouth and repeat viewings were sustaining the film's performance. The film retained the top spot for a third consecutive week, a significant achievement in an increasingly competitive theatrical marketplace. The ability to maintain the #1 position for 3 straight weeks demonstrated that the film had found its audience and was benefiting from reduced direct competition. The film's domestic dominance ended in its fourth weekend when it was dethroned by newcomer Red One. The Last Dance earned $7.3 million in its fourth frame, finishing in second place. This represented a typical progression for a major release, with the film entering its long-tail theatrical run where week-to-week revenue becomes increasingly modest but continues to accumulate. Internationally, the film performed significantly better, ultimately accounting for a larger portion of the worldwide gross than the domestic market. The international opening brought in $124 million, nearly triple the domestic opening and providing crucial support for the film's overall financial performance. This strong international showing helped offset the weaker North American results and ensured the film would be profitable. China emerged as the film's leading international market, which proved particularly significant given that the previous installment had not released there due to COVID-19 complications. The film earned $46 million in China during its opening weekend, marking the highest opening weekend numbers for a superhero movie in that country since 2019 and the highest Hollywood opening of 2024 in that market. Through its run, China contributed $84.3 million to the film's total, with local ticketing site Mayan predicting a final of approximately $94 million. The Last Dance became the #3 Hollywood title of 2024 in China, behind only Godzilla x Kong and Alien: Romulus. Other significant international markets included Mexico with $17.5 million, the United Kingdom with $14.5 million, Germany with $11.7 million, South Korea with $11.4 million, France with $10.3 million, Italy with $7.5 million, Australia with $7.5 million, Spain with $7.3 million, and India with $7.3 million. The breadth of strong performance across diverse markets demonstrated the franchise's global appeal and Sony's effective international distribution strategy. By the conclusion of its theatrical run, Venom: The Last Dance grossed $139.8 million in the United States and Canada, and $339.2 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $478.9 million. The international gross represented approximately 71% of the worldwide total, emphasizing the crucial role of overseas markets in the film's financial success. This final worldwide gross positioned the film as the 8th highest-grossing movie of 2024 globally and contributed to pushing the Venom franchise past $1.7 billion across its 3 installments. The film was produced on a budget of approximately $120 million, a relatively modest figure for a modern superhero blockbuster. Many genre entries carry production budgets of $200 million or higher, making The Last Dance's more restrained spending a strategic advantage. Against this budget, the worldwide gross of $478.9 million represented a strong return on investment, ensuring profitability for Sony Pictures even after accounting for marketing costs and exhibitor shares of box office. Reviews 1. Over the course of 3 Venom movies, Tom Hardy has done a lot to bring a modicum of gravitas to a profoundly silly story about a parasitic alien whose place in the Marvel Universe cosmology has never made a lot of sense, at least to those not schooled in all things MCU. The fact that the trilogy has avoided taking itself too seriously has been both its saving grace and its limitation. It's hard to invest too much in the usual bombaster and mayhem and CG smackdowns when the films come off as goofball larks with way fewer teeth than the giant pointed chompers on the title character. On the other hand, Hardy brings sufficient charm, and witty voice work, to his symbiote-inhabited character's internal battle between need and superego to make each entry diverting enough, even if they leave little aftertaste. And so it goes with Venom: The Last Dance, which caps the trilogy by going gleefully out on its own. Release date: Friday, October 25th. Cast: Tom Hardy, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Juno Temple, Rhys Ifans, Stephen Graham, Peggy Lou, Clark Bacco, Alana Ubach. Director Screenwriter, Kelly Marcel. Rated PG-13, 1 hour 49 minutes. Graduating from her role as a writer and producer on 2018's Venom and 2021's Venom, Let There Be Carnage to first-time feature director here, Kelly Marcel jettisons any Spider-Man adjacency and tries her hand at something no one on the preceding films has managed to do. Working from a story she developed with Hardy, Marcel gives Venom A as the goopy alien organism that took up residence in the body of Hardy's former investigative TV reporter Eddie Brock is known as an origin story of sorts. In a hastily sketched prologue, we meet a straggly-haired ghoul known to comic book aficionados as Null, an unrecognizable Andy Serkis, director of the trilogy's last entry, who identifies himself with lugubrious grandiosity as God of the Void, seething about his symbiote children having betrayed and imprisoned him in some dark cavern in a distant universe. Null dispatches a bunch of fearsome creatures called xenophages, giant spidery reptilian things that love to snack on symbiotes. But Null doesn't just want those ingrate offspring slaughtered. He needs a key in their possession to escape his prison. Find me the Codex. He bellows at the critters. Of course, the Codex is not to be found on any random symbiote. No prizes for guessing who has it. The story picks up with Eddie and Venom drunk in a bar in Mexico, having gone on the run after eliminating Woody Harrelson's Cletus Kasady and his symbiote, Carnage. In the last movie, their epic clash apparently alerted Null to the presence of symbiotes on Earth. An irrelevant multiverse detour lands Eddie and Venom back in the bar sometime later, primarily so the symbiote can manipulate his host into channeling Tom Cruise and Cocktail A with those slithery extra limbs doing maximum damage to the tune of Tequila. Naturally, Venom jumping in on the sole lyric of that 1950s jazz instrumental is a good indication of what's to come. As Hardy and Marcel milk the odd couple dynamic and jokey banter for maximum laughs, the symbiote at this point is so playful and quippy he's practically Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors, minus the urge to eat his one true friend. But Venom sobers up in every sense of the word as the story progresses, pointing toward what seems an inevitable separation of host and guest and yielding moments of tender sentimentality. First, however, Eddie learns he's wanted for questioning concerning the apparent death of Detective Patrick Mulligan, Stephen Graham, in San Francisco. Eddie and Venom try hot-footing it to New York City, but a skirmish with a xenophage while they're hitching a ride on a passenger plane lands them in the Nevada desert instead. They turn out to be near Area 51, a recently decommissioned site about to be destroyed, where the government has been conducting controversial tests on aliens in a secret containment facility 100 feet below the surface, where something called the Imperium program is being carried out. A couple of thin secondary characters are introduced, played by overqualified actors not given enough to do. One is Army Special Forces brass Rex Strickland, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and the other is symbiote whisperer scientist Dr. Payne, Juno Temple. Dr. Payne believes the aliens have come to Earth fleeing something and looking for a safe haven, but Strickland is convinced their goal is migration and planetary occupation. UFO-obsessed hippie tourist Martin Reciphens and his family give Eddie a lift in their camper van along the extraterrestrial highway, where they're hoping to see some alien action. They get more than they bargained for once as Xenophage sniffs out Venom, and Null sends a whole lot more of them to clean up and to bring back that damn Codex, say not to be confused with the identically termed but narratively unrelated Codex that Michael Shannon's General Zod was screaming for in Man of Steel. This is the point at which the action explodes into chaos on Marcel's inexperience and the director's chair starts to show. The rampaging Xenophages are a formidable weapon of mass destruction, but the film sacrifices some excitement by giving Venom only nameless, faceless adversaries, unless you count the gnarly god of the void stewing away in space. Eddie and Venom get almost sidelined in all this. Much of the resistance is left to symbiotes released from the lab, which instantly find compatible hosts in the Imperium staffers and occasionally manage to escape the ravenous jaws of the Xenophages. The most memorable of them, the only memorable one, is Dr. Payne's lab colleague Sadie Clark Bacco, who unleashes some serious badassery once she's transformed, this being the concluding chapter of a trilogy. It all leads to an emotional catharsis that will no doubt satisfy fans of the earlier movies, with a sweet touch of cheesy humor to offset the melancholy. But the only thing that really matters on the way there is the affectionately tacky rapport between Eddie and Venom, who have gotten progressively more comfortable in each other's skins over the year they've been together. Though I can't say I didn't miss the grounding presence of Michelle Williams and the lost love of Eddie's life, now completely out of the picture. Much of the shtick involves Eddie playing straight man to the symbiote cute-up, whether introducing Venom to gambling in a funny scene at a Vegas slot machine, Lady Luck is a fickle slut, or enduring a family sing-along to Space Oddity, accompanied by Martin strumming a guitar in the van. There's less of Venom taking over at will than Eddie giving his alien pal the nod whenever superhuman strength is required. Say for instance, in an enjoyable early scene with the band of Mexicans running illegal dog fights, "Hola, bitches," says Venom, as the tentacles unfurl to take them out. It makes for an amusing detour when they meet San Francisco convenience store owner Mrs. Chen, Peggy Lou, in Vegas, where she has become such a high roller at a hotel casino that she commands the penthouse suite. That allows for a Duffy interlude in which Mrs. Chen and Venom cut a rug to ABBA's Dancing Queen. It's cute, but doesn't exactly up the stakes in terms of impending doom. The Venom movies have all been somewhat constricted by their PG-13 guidelines, meaning the dangers are invariably a tad muted and the casualties barely register. The chief exception to that in The Last Dance is a pulse racing sequence in which Strickland's SWAT team, armed with lots of cool gadgetry, pursues Eddie down whitewater rapids toward a waterfall in a bid to capture Venom. That scene also gives the effects team license to do what they do best. Sure, the Xenophages are impressive creepy crawlies, but the main attraction is the transformation of the symbiotes from writhing cellular blobs into gleaming colossi with killer grins and tongues that put Gene Simmons to shame. Venom's shape-shifting abilities alone provide plenty of entertainment. He's a parachute, he's a horse, he's a fish. That should appeal especially to kids in the audience. The action is bigger and louder, if at times messier, than that of its predecessors. But this is also the cuddliest of the three movies. It reveals both Eddie and Venom to be old softies in their protectiveness toward Martin's kids, Hala Finley and Dash McCloud, and even more so in their cozy companionship, a symbiosis that's almost a marriage. Reviews to Venom. The Last Dance hopes to liven up the October box office this weekend with a domestic debut of $65 million and $100 million overseas. even though it's looking like the threequel's North American launch may be the lowest of Sony's prized anti-hero franchise. The first Venom opened to $80.2 million in 2018, then a record for October. It lost the crown a year later to Joker, $96.2 million. The second installment, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, debuted in October 2021 to $90 million, a boon for theater owners who were still recovering from the pandemic and a major win for Sony. Venom, The Last Dance should have no trouble nabbing the biggest opening of October 2024 to date after Joker. Foil A tilde flamed out with a $37 million debut following the sequel's unprecedented D-cinema score. In the case of Venom, it's not uncommon for threequels to fall off. Sony is confident, however, that fanboys will find the third outing to be the best of the bunch and help fuel better-than-expected ticket sales. Venom 3 reviews arrive at noon Wednesday. The Prick's reported budget is $120 million before marketing. On Wednesday, Venom 3 opened in its first draft of foreign markets and pulled in a better-than-hoped for $9.3 million in China, the biggest opening day for a comic book movie since fellow Sony title Spider-Man: Far From Home. This prompted Sony to up its foreign opening forecast to $100 million, versus $85 million. Directed by Kelly Marcel, Venom 3 stars Tom Hardy, who returns in the titular role. Hardy also co-wrote the script with Marcel, his longtime creative partner who makes her directorial debut with the feature. The other new nationwide film this weekend is Edward Berger's acclaimed Oscar contender Conclave, a Vatican-set thriller about the election of a new pope. Produced and financed by Film Nation and Indian Paintbrush, the movie's all-star cast includes Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow and Isabella Rossellini. Focus Features, which acquired domestic rights in exchange for a distribution fee, opens Conclave in 1,742 cinemas. The adult-targeted specialty film, costing just under $20 million to produce, is pacing to open to $4 million to $6 million and then play throughout awards season. It sports a 95% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Reviews 3 Tom Hardy is back as Venom in Sony's third installment in the smash hit Venom film franchise this Halloween season, with the new movie officially titled Venom: The Last Dance. Watch the final trailer for Venom: The Last Dance below. In theaters October 25th. In Venom: The Last Dance, Tom Hardy returns as Venom, one of Marvel's greatest and most complex characters, for the final film in the trilogy. That's the plan for now. At least a broken bar Eddie and Venom are on the run. Haunted by both of their worlds and with the net closing in, the duo are forced into a devastating decision that will bring the curtains down on their last dance. Chiwetel Ejiofor, Juno Temple, Rhys Ifans, Peggy Lou, Alana Ubach and Stephen Graham also star. The film is directed by Kelly Marcel from a screenplay she wrote. Based on a story by Tom Hardy and Kelly Marcel, the upcoming third Venom film is produced by Avi Arad, Matt Tolmach, Amy Pascal, Kelly Marcel, Tom Hardy and Hutch Parker. Ruben Fleischer directed Venom, with Andy Serkis directing Venom: Let There Be Carnage. The 2021 sequel saw Tom Hardy's Venom do battle with Woody Harrelson's Carnage. The sequel also made it clear that these Venom movies are taking place within the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe, so we expect to see some more connections in the upcoming third movie. Reviews for Ever since the Venom: The Last Dance trailer released, fans have been obsessed with the venomized horse that Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock rides in the final movie of the Sony trilogy. But that's not the only unfortunate animal that the symbiote possesses, because there's also a venom fish and frog and at one point there was more. The script originally had Venom take over an electric eel. Director Kelly Marcel revealed at the Venom: The Last Dance premiere in New York on Monday night, but the underwater animal was left on the cutting room floor. The sequence was getting too long. One of them had to go. The eel didn't make it. The fish, frog and horse made it and then something else, she told Variety, while teasing that there's some more venomizing in the movie. The full scene from Venom: The Last Dance was played to attendees of Sony's New York Comic-Con panel on Friday night. It showed Hardy's Eddie and his murderous symbiote pal being chased by soldiers in the desert. Eddie jumps into a roaring river to escape, while Venom, in his goo form, takes over a fish to swim away to safety. The venomized fish turns black and gains razor-sharp teeth and a long, slobbery tongue. Just like the main Venom, the small fish gulps down a bigger one to double in size, but then Venom hops over to an unsuspecting frog, which transforms into an amphibious symbiote. The Venomized deal would have been right at home in the scene, but sadly fans won't be able to see it. The third movie picks up directly after 2021's Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and Eddie and Venom are now fugitives on the run. They're also being pursued by a xenophage, a giant monstrosity with woodchipper-like teeth sent by Venom's creator Liye, a comic book villain that's the looming bad guy over The Last Dance. Hardy and Marcel has previously said that this is the last Venom movie, but there are some teases at what could be in store for the future of the Spider-Man villains franchise. At New York Comic Con, Hardy said he still wants his Venom to battle Tom Holland's Spidey in the MCU at some point. And Marcel said there are lots of symbiote stories in the canon that they could tell. I would love there to be another Venom movie that involves another character, Marcel told Variety at the premiere. Maybe there are even some Easter eggs in this movie about what that could be. And make sure to stay after the credits, because Marcel said that, like the two previous Venom movies, there are scenes that set up future storylines. We have a coda, as we always do, she said, but this is a clean wrapping up of the story. Reviews 5 warning, this article contains spoilers for Venom, The Last Dance. After 6 years of wild, occasionally gross storytelling, Tom Hardy's symbiote trilogy has come to an end with Venom, The Last Dance marking the end of an era. Marvel's most famous symbiote and his host first combined in 2018's Venom, kicking off Sony's Spider-Man universe with a spirit of uproarious fun that skirted close to an R rating without ever crossing the line. With Venom, The Last Stand, Sony are closing a chapter, but the movie's ending, and specifically the introduction of a Thanos-level threat to the universe and god-tier villain Null, holds considerable promise for the future. It's just a future that we'll have to face without Tom Hardy's participation, unless Marvel pulls off a masterstroke and brings Eddie Brock into the mix for Avengers, Doomsday or Secret Wars. Stranger things have certainly happened. As the dust begins to settle on Venom's movie trilogy, let's break down exactly how The Last Dance ends Eddie Brock's story, the subtle hidden meaning it reveals about the wider trilogy, and exactly what it sets up for the future. Here's everything you need to know. Venom sacrifices himself to destroy the Codex and save the world. It really was the last dance for Venom. Venom 3's marketing, and indeed the title, has very consciously leaned into the fact that either Eddie or Venom would die in the last dance, and it's the symbiote who makes the final sacrifice. The film's climax pits Venom, several new symbiotes, and Earth's army under Chiwetel Ejiofor's Rex Strickland against Null's monstrous xenophages, which lay waste to the symbiotes, leaving Venom alive. Venom absorbs the xenophages and crawls towards a handily placed vat of acid to kill both himself and the alien monsters. The symbiote pushes Eddie away before Strickland uses his clearance to make the acid be dumped on them, and Venom protects his host using a steel door before he's killed when Strickland destroys the facility. The symbiote's final words to Eddie are "bye for now," suggesting that even in his last moments, he touchingly believes the pair may be reunited. The Codex and its significance explained Null's plan for escape from his prison depends on him gaining access to the Codex, which is created when a symbiote saves their host's life and their life forces become one. In Venom's case, this happened in Venom's ending when Eddie was stabbed by Riot, and the symbiote bonded with him to revive him. Venom was willing to sacrifice himself at that point, earning himself the Lethal Protector nickname that would then play a similarly important part in The Last Dance's ending. It's not entirely clear why the Codex is key to Null's escape in the movie, but he is left imprisoned when Venom defeats the xenophages and sacrifices himself, much to Null's anger. That also suggests that the Codex is destroyed, despite Null's threats to reap vengeance on the universe. In Marvel Comics, the Codex is more complex, potentially offering an answer. Rather than being created through a bond between host and symbiote, the Codex is a fragment of a symbiote left within the host's body even after they've stopped being bonded. The Codex also creates a log of the host in the symbiote hive mind, and is effectively the key to a wealth of knowledge on the hosts. Additionally, in the comics, Eddie was actually able to create his own composite symbiote from codices harvested by the Maker, an alternate universe, villainous version of Reed Richards, who had collected them in an attempt to restore his own universe. Capable of creating symbiotes, unlocking their secrets, and those of the hive mind, and other incredibly valuable powers, they are a big deal. Null identified Venom's codex as the key to his escape, perhaps as a means to control the hive mind and become more powerful. How Venom can still return explained. Marcel confirms that there was a shift in focus after the first film. We do listen to the fans. After each movie, we go back and we look at what people liked and what people didn't like. And it was very clear that people were very wedded to the relationships between Venom and Eddie. That was what they loved. Marcel says, the axis on which these movies spin is Venom and Eddie's relationship, and it's always been about them. In the middle of Venom, The Last Dance, Marcel puts Eddie Brock in a tuxedo during a stop in Las Vegas. For starters, she'd grown weary of Eddie's Hawaiian shirt and Golden State Warriors t-shirt that was established in the coda of Spider-Man: No Way Home. But she was also motivated by a pop cultural factor outside of their fictional universe. There's always been these rumors about Tom playing James Bond, so I may have been showing what Tom Hardy's James Bond might look like, Marcel admits mid-laugh. Speaking of which, Marcel also recently found herself on a rumored short list of directors who may be in the mix for the next James Bond film. The list featured the names of Marcel, Edward Berger, David McCud, and Imogen Barrett Layton. That's an extraordinary list to be on. I was flabbergasted, Marcel says. There's never been a female Bond director, and of course, when you see something like that, it's just incredibly humbling. So I'm grateful to be mentioned alongside any of those brilliant directors. Below, during a recent conversation with THR, Marcel also addresses Venom spin-off possibilities and whether she knows what the MCU has planned for the Venom sample that remains in that universe. Apparently, you've known Tom Hardy for over 2 decades. How did you first meet? We met when I was working in a video store. He was running this little theater company in the pub across the road. It was sort of like a gym for actors, so that's how we met. We started talking about the industry and things that we were both interested in, and we found that we shared a sensibility and a sense of humor. So I started writing scenes for his actors to workshop in that theater company. I'd already written some plays at the Edinburgh Festival, so I wasn't coming from nowhere, but we were both very much unemployed. In the larger sense, I was employed by a video store, and Tom would come over and help me give out DVDs, so our friendship grew from there. According to the internet, you did some writing for Tom on Bronson and Mad Max: Fury Road. Assuming those jobs were trials by fire, did they only deepen your bond? Yeah, absolutely. We had written some TV shows together. We had gone out pitching, so those jobs weren't the first times that we had worked together. When he was doing Bronson, he was having a tricky time realizing that character, so I came in to do some rewrites on it and help him find what it was he was trying to express in that movie. He's brilliant in it, and it was astonishing to watch him every day. And then it was the same with Mad Max: Fury Road. So we've both worked together through our careers, and then we've obviously had our separate tangents as well. But whenever Tom needs me, I'm there. You wrote or co-wrote the last 2 Venom films, making you, Tom and Peggy Lou's Mrs. Chen the 3 constants in the franchise. How did events unfold to where you landed in the director's chair? Yeah, I wrote Venom. I wrote and produced Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and towards the end of Venom 2, Sonny asked if I would like to direct the 3rd one. Tom and I then looked at each other and were like, yeah, that's definitely something that should happen. It was a great honor to be asked, and it was really a beautiful thing that they were going to allow us to see this movie from inception to the very end in our way. So it's been beautiful to get to see these characters out. It seems like you, Stephen Knight and Chris Nolan know how to best work with Tom. So what's the key to collaborating with him? I think Tom works well with so many directors, but he loves Steve and Chris. Tom is a fountain of ideas. He is very alive in his imagination, and he is kind of a genius in the way that he keeps a character on its toes. He's extraordinarily brave in how far he's willing to go with the character, and as long as he feels safe and supported, then he's going to give you everything he's got. As a director, our job is to challenge him and get that amazing performance that he has within him to shine. But it's all Tom. He comes with his characters fully formulated in his head. He is very much the creator of Venom and Venom's voice. He very much knew who Eddie Brock was. My job was just to put the words in their mouths, and find fun and interesting things for him to do with those characters. Who gets the credit for the hilarious running gag involving Eddie's shoes? Marcel raises her hand. As Tom will tell you, we want to have fun when we are making these movies. They're hard work and long hours and long days. So whenever I'm writing these scripts, I'm always thinking about fun things that I can do, like stick Tom in a tank of water for 2 weeks or throw him off a plane. That's just our thing with each other. We like playing and having fun, and because Eddie had ended up in a pair of Crocs, I thought it would be hilarious to have an action sequence in a pair of Crocs. That's the dog fight. I then had him continue to lose shoes all the way through the movie just to see what he would do with that, and he was brilliant. Venom: The Last Dance is a road movie, and therefore, Eddie and Venom don't spend any time in San Francisco. Is that the main reason why Anne Wing, Michelle Williams, was absent from this one? Yeah. We really wanted to isolate them. We wanted to take them away from their comfort zone. We wanted to take them away from everything they knew and everyone they loved, so that they really only had each other to rely on now. We knew that we wanted them to reach symbiosis with each other and decide that they were going to be the lethal protector, and that they were going to go on this journey together. And, of course, that quickly becomes very dangerous for them, because the very act of them being together means that the world is at risk. So they come to understand that the thing that they have chosen is actually their downfall, and so all of the characters from the previous movies other than Peggy Lou's Mrs. Chen didn't belong in this road trip story. At the end of Venom 2018, both Venom and Stan Lee urged Eddie not to give up on Anne. So it seemed like the original plan was to rekindle Eddie and Anne's romance until it became evident that the real love story was between Eddie and Venom. So is there some truth to that romantic pivot? Yeah, I think so. We do listen to the fans. After each movie, we go back and we look at what people liked and what people didn't like. And it was very clear that people were very wedded to the relationships between Venom and Eddie. That was what they loved, but they also loved Dr. Dan Reed Scott in Venom. So we were like, well, we've got to bring Reed back because everybody loves him. So it just felt like the Venom 2 story was about these two characters who have been forced to live together and are driving each other absolutely crazy. It's the 7-year itch where they are forced to split up. And that was the trajectory of that movie, whilst also facing carnage and shriek. The axis on which these movies spin is Venom and Eddie's relationship, and it's always been about them. You reference MCU events at the start, so how involved were those executives on this go-round? They weren't involved, because, where we find ourselves in the MCU, it's already something that we had shot. The coda in Spider-Man: No Way Home, a broken bar, yeah. It already existed. There's still that sample or piece of Venom that's left in the MCU version of that Mexico set bar. Is it anyone's guess what the plan is for that? I think it's anyone's guess at this point. Most notable actors these days have worked on comic book projects, but Rhys Ifans played Dr. Kurt Connors, Lizard in The Amazing Spider-Man, 2012, and Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021. Chiwetel Ejiofor also played a villain named Mordo in the MCU's Doctor Strange movies. Thus, was there any hand-wringing over their castings? No, none of us really thought about that. They're brilliant actors, and they play different roles. For me, it was just about having the right actors for these parts, and I can't imagine anyone but Rhys playing Martin. I also can't imagine anyone other than Chiwetel playing Strickland. They're amazing actors, and I'm so grateful we got to work with them. So none of us really thought about their prior characters that they had played. Was it bizarre to direct the director of the last Venom movie? Laughs. Oh my god. I love Andy Serkis so much. We all love Andy. We knew on Venom 2 that he was going to be this null character. Should we be able to bring the character into this movie? He was the only person we asked, and of course, he was thrilled and excited. He's one of the greatest voice actors there is. Null is all mocap and CGI. and so it was brilliant to work together. It was like a reunion. Andy and I are friends, so it was just very fun to get to spend some time with him on this. It felt like a full circle in a way when Null's foot soldier type creatures eat humans and spray their blood in response. Are they filtering the blood because it doesn't agree with their systems? Yes, if you look at their mouths are a wood chipper. So they were conceived to have wood chipper mouths that spit out the back. They have a vent on the back of their head, and whatever goes through, the remains must come out. Between the Spider-Man, No Way Home coda and half this movie, Eddie is dressed in the same dreadful vacation outfit. Was the tuxedo glow up your response to that wardrobe? Could you not take it anymore? Laughs. It was a response. Tom is the most handsome man, and I wanted to see him in a tuxedo. I also love the idea of him doing all of the third act action sequence in an amazing suit and looking incredible. I felt like Eddie deserved it. I realized Tom's contract is up and that Venom, The Last Dance is regarded as the last one, but Venom is still a valuable franchise to Sony. So if inspiration ever struck you and Tom, do you think the studio would welcome a Venom 4? You'd have to ask Sony. I don't know. Yes. It is the end of a contract. We were asked to do 3. We've delivered 3, and who knows what the future holds. I hope that we've laid groundwork for them in this third movie with other characters and other symbiotes and bad guys that they can run with, should they choose. But this is the last one for Venom and Eddie. Yeah, this movie leaves one particular character in a very interesting place. Have you given some forethought to future spin-offs, or was it purely a gift for the studio to run with as they please? We have definitely given it forethought, so we definitely know what those stories could be, should they want them. But they are a gift to the studio. Yes, you knew you made it when you sold your first show, Terra Nova, and got your first writing credit on a movie, Saving Mr. Banks. You again knew you made it when you directed Venom, The Last Dance. But you really knew you made it when you found yourself in James Bond-related rumors. Was that pretty flattering regardless of whether it's true or not? Laughs. Yeah, that's an extraordinary list to be on. I was flabbergasted. There's never been a female Bond director, and of course, when you see something like that, it's just incredibly humbling. So I'm grateful to be mentioned alongside any of those brilliant directors. Writer's note, the rumored list is as follows: Marcel, Edward Berger, David McCud, Jan de Mange and Bart Layton. When I saw Tom in the tuxedo, I did think of James Bond. So did I. I then wondered if you were potentially leaving a trail of breadcrumbs. Laughs. Well, there's always been these rumors about him playing James Bond, so I may have been showing what Tom Hardy's James Bond might look like.